all dressed up for you, and I put on a bow tie, and I have a vest which is more about keeping me, slim in front of you. And then I realized, now if you look up here, the information is going to be on the screens to the side. So I'm going to narrate while you all take a look at the screens. To the gentleman with the camera pointing this direction, there really isn't that much fun that's going to happen up here. The stuff that is on the screens is where our good information is going to be. So before we get started, a few things if you've not been to these before. First, I'm going to give you the most up-to-date information that there is, but sometimes the most up-to-date information lags. Like the brand new commuting data came out. Everybody high-five each other from 2020. So 2020 is the brand new commuting data. The farm data is 2017. Those are the two oldest, but those are the newest that is available. For some things, we're going to take it all the way through September of this year, through September 2023 on unemployment and a few other things. We'll give you the most up-to-date, both in your data book and the electronic version that we'll send you afterwards. It'll have two slides on a page, so you see them a little better in a PDF. They'll all have the sources and have the raw data if you all have questions about it. We're going to each time do good, better, and best. Good is going to be Chatham County. Better is Chatham County over time. Best is Chatham County over time against its neighbors, peers, people that it admires. It's one thing to take a look at yourself right now, and then let's see how that has changed over time. We're going to use colors to help you see what's going on. So Chatham will be blue and try to stand out every time I give you a set of other counties. We're going to talk percentages and percentage points, y'all. So if something went from 10% to 11%, you can say two things. You can say it went up 10%. It did, right? From 1 percentage point on 10 is 10% up. But we're going to call that 1 percentage point up. So we're mostly going to be talking about the points and not the percentages. I will adjust for inflation. A lot of questions have been, it looks like retail sales are really high up, but what about inflation? So we're going to adjust for inflation. And you'll know that when you see that funky dollar sign in front of a year. That would mean that I've adjusted for inflation to 2021, or adjusted for inflation and flag those. Y'all, county lines and zip codes, there are people in Chatham County who think they live in Chapel Hill, but we all know they don't live in Chapel Hill. They just have a Chapel Hill address. Amazon thinks they live in Chapel Hill. Grandma sends cards to a Chapel Hill address. They do not live in Chapel Hill. Similarly, Pittsboro, people who don't live in Pittsboro, I'm going to use the city limits. So when we tell you about what housing costs in Pittsboro, we're going to mean city limits Pittsboro, not everything with a Pittsboro address. And zip codes. Oh my gosh, it seems like the post office could care less about our municipal boundaries. We are going to pull back the covers. There's good stories to tell. In chamber, people tell good stories. That's our job. But we're also going to pull back the covers and unmask a couple of challenges. For some of this, it's going to feel like you just got one lick of an ice cream cone. Like, I was like, here, what do you think? Like, I want some more, but like, we're moving on already. So, a little taste. Some things we're going to take a big scoop of, but just heads up. And a patasaurus, anybody know what that is? Anybody my age know what a brontosaurus is? Okay, so a brontosaurus turns out isn't a thing. A brontosaurus, when I was a kid, it was a big dinosaur, now it's called an apatosaurus. The reason I mentioned this is that language changes over time, and we're in the period of a language change. So in my daily habits, I would say Latinx or Latino, Latina. Hispanic is the term the federal government uses. There is a difference between Hispanic and Latino. I'm going to use Hispanic. I'm going to use Black. I'm going to use economically disadvantaged. That's the term. So we're going to use the language. Be patient. Language is changing. Brontosaurus and Apatosaurus as an example. Two admonitions. One, resist the urge to dismiss what doesn't comport with your worldview. So I'm going to share information. You're like, that's not true. It can't be true. That's what we say when we don't agree. So we can disagree. I've double-checked most. I feel confident in the data that I'm giving you. You may have a different prescription for the solution, but we can share information with each other. Final two, you can blurt. It's unusual. Only once, please, or twice if it's like, really, you can't help yourself, but really, I'm going along and you just holler out because you can't help yourself. Aaron, go back to your slides. And we'll see how that goes. And at the end, I'll try to leave time for questions. Cool? We know what we're up to? All right, let's get started. Today, we're going to do population, demographics, migration, education, community health, economy. You see them up here. I don't need to read to you. Some of the folks like right under a screen. I think you can actually get a recliner and just drop your seat back a little and just stare at the one there. In the data book in front of you, there is stuff on transit, transportation, We're not going to spend time here. Taxes are in there, some environment, natural resources, some higher education. I'm not spending much time on those today. Everybody put your seatbelt on? We're going to do Southern accent, Northern speed. If you're having trouble keeping up, just like come on in your room and check your headlight lights, and I'll see if I can start translating. So, a timeline. When we talk about 2016 data, you hear someone say, well, the census 2016, what they mean is this 5-year rolling average. The Census Bureau allows you to take a 1-year average, a 3-year, or a 5. The 5 is much more reliable. It has less margin of error when we use the 5-year. We had a census in 2020. Some of the data will be from the actual walking around and asking everybody, but a lot of it is going to come from a thing called 2021. Well, 2021 isn't really 2021. It's this composite that demographers put together at the Census Bureau, which is this range of 17 to 21. So what's starting to show up is COVID. So COVID is the final 2 years of the 2021. So we know that there's, I want that in your head, there's going to be some overlap of beginning of COVID. We're going to take a look at school years. School years are a little unusual. That's school year 2020. Remember, it started, and then they went home for spring break and didn't come back. So that one, they went to a lot of school, but not all of school. There's a year of no school. There's a year of back and awkward, and then the year that we are in now. And I have 2023 data that I'm excited to share with you. Okay, finally, there are fiscal years. Is this all making sense? Aaron, enough preamble, get to it. So we're going to look at the 16 versus the 21 a lot. We're going to talk about a pre-COVID school year and the year that we are in now. Check it back to it. All right. Just in case someone bought you a ticket and sent you here, you didn't know where you were. We're in Chatham County. It is part of a growing region with a commuter and labor shed that now has people driving in and out, right? These county lines that we drew in the 1700s are no longer indicative of our economy. A lot of data is collected like this. There's a thing called the Durham-Chapel Hill MSA. Chatham's in it. So we hear things like the average cost of an apartment might be Durham MSA data, or when we do fair market rent, that is Chatham, Durham, and Orange. So there's this MSA, and they often call it Durham, but it is this entire region's data put together. There's another one called the Raleigh-Cary MSA, and if I had a magic wand, I would wish these two to get back together. We used to have one MSA, and if you want to join me in that crusade, let's put our MSA back together. It really does a better job for the community patterns. All right, so the land use in Chatham County, it's a big county, as you know, it takes a long time to drive across. And I drew a line sort of in between some zip codes, so when we get the cost of housing, very different prices, very different growth and development patterns happening with that zip code line that I chose to draw. And another thing that really influences, no news to you all, is an upside-down mountain range called the lake that is in Chatham County. If it were a mountain range, it would have a very similar effect. There's one passage through the mountains across that lake, and the impact that that has on the relationships between this county and what is to its east, it's having a big impact. So just sort of the setting of the stage. So in Chatham County, there are some municipalities. Pittsburgh, y'all, is 4 square miles, 4.1 square miles. That's about 1/2 of 1% of the land mass of Chatham County. Siler City makes up almost 1%. We've got Goldston, almost a square mile. And Cary, y'all, now is 1.3 square miles, so 0.2% of the land. The rest of Wood County is unincorporated. 98% of the county is county and not city. Now, if you're from the north, this is super confusing because cities sit cheek and jowl with each other. You just move from municipality to municipality, and this notion of unincorporated spaces carrying the names of cities has been complicated for folks. We look at the housing distribution. About 9% of the housing is in Siler City proper. Pittsburgh, 1,900 dwelling units. Cary is now 1,900 dwelling units. And Goldston, 131, according to the census since 2021. They didn't actually go around and count them, but they statistically averaged them. And then the remainder of the housing is in the unincorporated spaces. And this will change, right? There's going to be some annexation and some growth. The humans live like this. So about 3,700 people vote Chatham County Commissioners and Cary Town Council. and you see that Pittsburgh and Siler City. The 2020 census is the most reliable right now for population, so I'm going to use it a lot. The 2021 census, don't use it. They did an adjustment trying to put people where they should have been. That's it. The census was counting where we were in April of 2020, but in April of 2020, we had dehydrated our campus at UNC. We had taken places of people that live close together, senior facilities, and taken people out of those. And so in 2021, they tried to put everybody back where they were supposed to be. There's a lack of confidence in it being accurate. It actually says that Chatham County's population declined. Anybody think that Chatham County's population declined? It says that Orange County's population went down 10,000 people. That's not true. So be careful when you're using information. I would encourage you to use the 2020 census or the 2022 estimates. So we're going to get to that in just a second. All right, let's talk about our land. We're supposed to talk about the land. And so let's go to farming. And most folks think that farming is on the decline. I told you this data lags a bit. In 2007, there's about 1,089 farms. That grew by 100, well, about 50. And then in 2017, it moderated. But there is not a declining number of farms. And when we take a look at the land that is being farmed, actively farmed in Chatham County, that is also pretty consistent. It's similar in 27 as it was in 2017. We'll get the new information. The 2022 data will show up in another year. Because it was late at night, I was digging and it was a cool website, wanted to take a look at something. So I took a look at black farming. So in Chatham County, you had 9 farms, and then there were 15. There's been a growth of black farmers in Chatham County over the last 2 decades. The last estimate, 23 farms, 1,400 acres under farming, either owned or operated by a black African-American person. I was curious to share it with you. What are you farming? It is pasture land and cropland, particularly woodland also. 8 other uses. And that's what the federal government calls those. The products that are being sold, this is hired labor, so it's about $8.5 million worth of payroll coming out of those farms, and this is the total sales. $170 million was the most recent estimates of the value of the products sold. They're mostly small farms, mostly selling under $100,000 of annual revenue, but there are some larger ones, even with cowboys and longhorn steer, and I was experienced. If you've not been to Leadership Chatham, I would encourage you to participate. Let's go a little